GamingBolt presents 15 times you fought freakish ancient evils in video games. Video game stories love making their players fight against ancient evils, mythical beasts, and shadowy organizations. We've seen them all, we've fought them all, and we've beat them all. But, of course, not every game that tries to have such an antagonist does it successfully. It's often said that a story is only as good as its villain, and some games just can't do villains right. But some can. Some stand out over others. Here in this feature, we're going to look at 15 games with stories that centered around such antagonists. Given the large scale of this topic, we're sure we'll have missed quite a few games, so mention them in the comment section below. With that out of the way, let's get right into it. Note, spoilers ahead. Guild Wars 2: Elder Dragons. The Elder Dragons from Guild Wars mythos had lots of lore surrounding their existence, but with Guild Wars 2, these terrifying mythical beings really came into their own. While much of their story is fairly typical of what you'd expect in a high fantasy setting, involving an apocalyptic cycle awakening followed by destruction every 1,000 years or so, the way the game makes use of the Elder Dragons really makes them stand out in memory. Couple that with how they're tied with the forces of magic in Tyria, and they become even more interesting. Warhammer 40k. Chaos. Chaos is a big deal in the lore of Warhammer, permeating from the tabletop games through the video games as well. Described as a malign spiritual force, chaos is what gives life and energy to all demons in the world of Warhammer 40k. It is essentially a powerful evil enemy that serves as one of the larger villains spanning across the series. Dead Space. Markers. Sure, markers are more objects than actual antagonists, but when you consider their purpose, you can't help but agree that they would qualify for such a list. The purpose of markers is to create necromorphs, and ultimately, brethren moons, which are like the ultimate evolved form of necromorphs. And we hate necromorphs. It's all kinds of messed up and several kinds of terrifying, and when you consider the fact that brethren moons have the ability to destroy entire planets, they become even more so. Halo 4. Forerunners. The Forerunners were not technically villains in the Halo series, but with the arrival of the Didact in Halo 4, they took on that role to an extent. An ancient, technologically superior alien race, the Forerunners were believed to be long gone until the Didact came into the forefront in Halo 4 and claimed that they were returning to the galaxy. He deemed humanity not worthy of the mantle of responsibility, and so it becomes clear that there's going to be a war between the two races very soon. Halo 4 has probably one of the best single-player campaigns in the series, and its arc with the Forerunners is responsible for that in a big way. Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Descendants. The Descendants, or the weird, freakish zombies from Uncharted 1, were truly the stuff of nightmares. It was bad enough that we didn't expect to be fighting zombies in an action game when we first played the game back in 2007, but to see just how fast and strong they were made them even scarier. The 4 chapters that features these zombie-like creatures were unexpectedly atmospheric and remain probably the most memorable part of the entire game 10 years since its release. Shadow of the Colossus-DORMIN. As we followed Wander on his quest to bring the woman he loves back to life, we couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It was Dormin's voice that told him to kill all Colossi roaming the lands, even though they didn't seem like they were the bad guys in the story here. And as the game neared its final act, it became clear that that was exactly the case, that Dormin is an ancient evil entity, and that the Colossi are essentially what have been keeping him at bay for so long, since a piece of his essence resides in each of them. So not only did we unknowingly fight an ancient evil in Shadow of the Colossus, we also helped it reclaim its lost powers. Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic, Sith. The Sith need no introduction. The Star Wars movies have built them up as an imposing evil presence. And while some might argue that including them on this list is almost like cheating exactly for that reason, there's something that has to be noted. That Knights of the Old Republic did an excellent job in and of itself building up the Sith as excellent villains. The fact that Revan turned out to be a Sith himself made them even more intrinsically tied to the story, elevating them to a whole new level. Fire Emblem Awakening. Grima. Grima, the Fell Dragon from Fire Emblem Awakening, is an excellent villain, not just because he's a proper ancient evil, having been around for thousands of years, but also because of the game's story. He's a threat in the present and the future as well. He's an ancient evil who, in typical fashion, awakens once every 1,000 years and lays waste to everything in his path. The final choice that the game presents to its players, which sees us deciding who lives between the protagonist and Chrom, essentially to decide the ultimate fate of Grima, is an excellent one, and cements the Fell Dragon as a truly great villain. Deus Ex Illuminati. The Illuminati, the ultimate shadowy organization, the very definition of ancient evil in quite a modern sense. Deus Ex is a franchise that is known for its focus on conspiracy theories and behind-the-scenes corruption in world leadership, so of course it makes sense that the entire organization of Illuminati serves as the main antagonist of the series. Their exploits throughout the series have been truly riveting, and while it's a shame that it'll probably be a while before we get to see another Deus Ex game anytime soon, the Illuminati's incredible presence in the series up until now shouldn't be forgotten. Metal Gear Solid: The Patriots. Speaking of shadowy organizations, Metal Gear Solid has its very own version of Illuminati. The Patriots have been known by a lot of names over the years. The philosophers left behind a vast sum of money, which gave birth to Cypher, and Cypher ultimately became the Patriots. And even though it ultimately turned out that the Patriots were just a system of AIs, the havoc they brought on the world by turning it into one large war zone, and the complete and absolute control they exercised over the human race, marks them as one of the best ancient evils in video games. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, Calamity Ganon. Ganon has always been a major villain in The Legend of Zelda, but he was probably at the peak of his powers in Breath of the Wild. Because in the latest installment in this series, Ganon was no longer an evil man, but an incarnation of pure evil. A evil, powerful being quite similar in nature to Sauron from Lord of the Rings, Calamity Ganon in Breath of the Wild is at least 10,000 years old, and it's been wreaking havoc on Hyrule every chance it gets, eventually turning it into the post-apocalyptic, sparsely inhabited land that we see in this game. If that's not a good villain, I don't know what is. The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword, Demise. But before there was Ganon, there was Demise. Skyward Sword reveals the origin story of Hyrule and its terror, revealing that an ancient demon, Demise, once did battle with Hylia herself. While he was eventually struck down by her and her chosen hero, he made sure to curse Hyrule to be haunted by his rage and evil forever, which would then go on to manifest itself in the spirit of Ganon. Essentially, Demise is the root of all of the problems that have plagued Hyrule throughout the entire series. Horizon Zero Dawn, Hades. Hades is the rogue AI that is essentially responsible for everything that is going wrong in the world of Horizon Zero Dawn. While it would take far too long to explain just how, maybe it should suffice for now to know that Hades even tried to bring out an extinction event near the end of the game to wipe out every single speck of life from the planet. That said, we also know that there was someone or something responsible for Hades going rogue, and whom or what that was is hopefully a question that the inevitable sequel will answer. Mass Effect: Reapers. The Reapers are probably among the best villains you will ever see in any video game franchise. They started out as a mythical, hazy threat in Mass Effect 1 and continued to grow in stature and menace. The complete destruction they wrought on the galaxy in Mass Effect 3 was brutal and ruthless. Credit has to be given to BioWare for carefully building them up and developing them as a major, terrifying threat across all three games of the series. The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim, Alduin. It's probably hard to know it, given that people generally do everything in Skyrim but the story, but there is a light-heavy narrative in Skyrim, a narrative that pits you against an ancient dragon, Alduin, who has returned and plans to wreak havoc upon the world. That's why you, as the Dragonborn, need to do your Dragonborning and take care of him. Alduin is considered by the people of Skyrim to be the harbinger of the apocalypse, and really, with a title like that, it's hard not to be threatened by him. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.